Have you ever noticed how the things you want most desperately seem to slip further away the harder you chase them, while the things you barely think about somehow appear in your life almost effortlessly? There's something deeply unsettling about this pattern, isn't there? It's as if reality itself is playing by rules nobody ever taught you, rules that seem to punish desire and reward indifference. But what if I told you this isn't punishment at all? What if this strange phenomenon is actually revealing something profound about the nature of reality itself? Something that exists in a space most people never even know to look for. Now, think back to a moment in your life when you wanted something so badly it consumed you. Maybe it was a relationship, a job opportunity, financial breakthrough, or even just a simple answer to a problem that kept you awake at night. You thought about it constantly, visualized it, affirmed it, tried every technique you could find, and yet nothing happened. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and that thing you wanted remained frustratingly out of reach. Has this ever happened to you? Of course it has. It happens to everyone. But here's where it gets strange. Remember another time when something incredible just fell into your lap? Something you barely thought about, maybe didn't even want that badly, yet it arrived so smoothly it almost felt like magic? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. This isn't coincidence. This is your first glimpse into something most people go their entire lives without understanding. A hidden state that exists between the reality you're currently experiencing and the reality you're trying to create. Think of it like this. There are two versions of reality operating simultaneously. There's the one you see with your eyes, the one that feels solid and unchangeable, the one that keeps telling you this is just how things are. And then there's another reality, one that's forming and taking shape in a dimension you can't see but can absolutely access. Between these two realities exists a space, a state of being that acts like a bridge or a doorway. Stay with me until the end, as because what you're about to discover might completely change how you approach everything you want in life. Most people are stuck in what I call the pursuit trap. They're so focused on chasing, forcing, and controlling outcomes that they never realize they're actually pushing away the very things they desire. They don't understand that reality isn't something happening to them, but rather something responding from them. Every thought, every emotion, every assumption you hold is sending out a signal, and reality is simply mirroring that signal back to you with absolute precision. But here's what nobody tells you. There's an invisible mechanism at work, a law that governs how reality reshapes itself around your internal state. And the moment you discover how to access the space between what you want and what appears, this hidden state where manifestation actually occurs, everything changes. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. You step into something far more powerful, and that's when the magic begins. So, what exactly is this hidden state, and how do you access it? This is where most people's entire understanding of manifestation completely falls apart. They think wanting something is the first step, but wanting is actually the problem. When you want something desperately, when you're constantly thinking about how much you need it, you're actually broadcasting a very specific signal to reality. A signal of absence, of lack, of not having. And reality, in its perfect mirror-like nature, reflects that signal right back to you with absolute precision. You get more wanting, more waiting, more absence. It's a cruel loop that most people stay trapped in their entire lives without ever understanding why. If you're someone who wants to go deeper into these hidden truths about reality and consciousness, hit that subscribe button. This channel exists for people who aren't satisfied with surface-level answers, people who are ready to see what most others miss. But there's a state you can step into that changes everything. It's not about pretending you have what you want. It's not about fake it till you make it affirmations or visualizing harder. This is something far more profound. It's about accessing a version of yourself that already exists in a parallel track of reality, a version that already possesses what you desire, and then living from that place, not acting as if, not hoping, actually being. This is the secret state between wanting and having. And when you discover how to inhabit it, you unlock a transformation in how reality responds to you that most people will never experience. Think about it this way. Every decision you make, every assumption you hold about yourself exists as a frequency. Right now, you're tuned into a specific station, a specific version of reality based on who you believe yourself to be and what you believe is possible for you. But here's the hidden truth. There are infinite stations, infinite versions of reality where different outcomes already exist. The version of you that has the relationship you want already exists. The version of you with financial abundance already exists. The version of you living your dream life already exists. These aren't fantasies. These are actual realities running parallel to the one you're currently experiencing. The question is, how do you shift from one station to another? The answer lies in understanding energy, in understanding the invisible impact of your internal state on the fabric of reality itself. The moment, and I mean the exact moment, you truly assume something is already yours, everything shifts, your energy changes. You stop checking your phone for signs. You stop refreshing your email hoping for news. You stop wondering when it will arrive because you've crossed a threshold. You're no longer in waiting mode because you've stepped into knowing mode. And this isn't a mental trick. This is an actual shift in your frequency that sends ripples through reality, forcing it to recalibrate, and forcing it to rearrange circumstances and possibilities to match where you now stand. Now, I want to go even deeper into this, because understanding this mechanism is one thing, but actually living in this state without falling back into doubt is where the real journey begins. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to shift." Here's where most people completely sabotage themselves, and they don't even realize they're doing it. They hear about detachment, about letting go, and they think it means pretending not to care anymore. So they try to convince themselves they don't want it. They try to force themselves into indifference, thinking that's the secret. But here's the brutal truth. You can't fake detachment. You can't lie to reality. The universe doesn't respond to what you say or what you consciously try to convince yourself of. It responds to the actual frequency you're emitting from the deepest part of your being. And when you're pretending not to care while secretly still checking, still hoping, still waiting desperately for signs, reality sees right through it. True detachment isn't about not caring. It's about something far more powerful. It's about knowing so completely, so deeply, that what you want is already yours, that you don't need to check if it's coming. Think about something you already have in your life. Maybe your home, your phone, your car. Do you wake up every morning wondering when your car will arrive? Do you anxiously check your driveway to make sure it's still there? Of course not. That would be insane because you already have it. There's no doubt, no questioning, no desperate energy around it. That's the state you need to access for everything you desire. This is the difference between those who successfully manifest and those who spend their entire lives merely hoping and wishing. But getting to this state requires a radical decision, one that most people are too scared to make. You have to stop the chase completely. Every single time you ask yourself, "Where is it?" or "When will it finally come?" you're broadcasting lack. You're operating from the frequency of not having, and reality has no choice but to keep mirroring that back to you. The chase itself is what pushes it away. It's like trying to grab water with your fist. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The more desperately you search, the more you confirm to reality that it's not here yet. So the first step into this hidden state between realities is to stop looking entirely. Not because you've given up or resigned yourself to failure, but because you've made a fundamental shift in your identity. In the reality you're now inhabiting, you already have it. And when something is already in your possession, there's nothing to search for. There's nothing to chase. There's nothing to anxiously wait for. You simply exist in the knowing, and that knowing transforms everything about how reality unfolds around you. This mindset shift, this internal revolution, is what creates the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. But staying in this state without slipping back into old patterns of doubt and desperation, that's where the real challenge lies. And that's exactly what we need to address. Type below, "I choose knowing over hoping." So you've made the decision, you've stopped chasing, you've stepped into the knowing, you feel certain, maybe even powerful for the first time in a long time. But then something happens, something that catches almost everyone off guard. A few hours pass, maybe a day, and suddenly that familiar voice creeps back in. "But where is it?" it whispers. "If this is real, why hasn't anything changed yet?" This is the test. This is the moment that reveals everything about whether you've truly crossed into the new reality or if you're still secretly anchored in the old one. Most people fail right here. They panic. They interpret doubt as evidence that it's not working, that they did something wrong, that maybe this whole thing is nonsense after all. And in that moment of panic, they do the worst possible thing. They start searching again. They start checking for signs, refreshing their circumstances, desperately looking for proof that reality is shifting. And the second they do that, they've slipped right back into the frequency of lack, of waiting, of not having. They've undone everything. If this shifted something inside you, hit the like button. It tells me this message resonated and helps it reach others who are ready to discover these hidden mechanics of reality. But here's what you need to understand. Doubt is not the enemy. Doubt is just a cloud passing through your mental sky. It doesn't mean anything unless you give it meaning. When that voice appears, and it will appear, I promise you, your only job is to do absolutely nothing. Don't react. Don't engage. Don't start a mental argument trying to convince yourself it's real. Just observe it. Let it pass. Your ability to sit in uncertainty without breaking, without reverting back to old patterns, is what determines whether you successfully navigate this hidden state between realities or fall back into the same cycle you've been stuck in your whole life. This brings us to something even deeper, something most people struggle with more than anything else: surrendering the timeline. You can assume for a moment. You can feel certain for an hour, maybe even a day. But then your mind starts demanding answers. Okay, but when exactly will this happen? How will it unfold? What's the process? You want control over the journey, over every step, over the exact mechanism by which your desire manifests. And that need for control is actually proof that you haven't fully shifted yet. The moment you release your grip on when and how, the moment you stop trying to orchestrate every detail of the transformation, that's when you prove to reality that you've truly changed frequencies. Because waiting implies absence. Waiting means you're still operating from the space of, it's not here yet. But when you exist in the state of already having, time becomes irrelevant. You're not waiting for anything because in your reality, it's already done. The physical manifestation is just reality catching up to where you already are internally. And that catching up happens on its own timeline, through its own mysterious pathways that you don't need to understand or control. This is where the real power lies. And this is where most people's entire approach to life needs a complete revolution. Leave a comment. I release the need to control. Understanding this release of control brings us to one of the most misunderstood aspects of this entire process: the silence. After you've shifted internally, after you've stepped into the state of already having, there's always a gap, a space of time where nothing seems to be happening in the physical world. And this is where most people completely lose their minds. They interpret the silence as failure. They think the gap means it's not working, that they did something wrong, that the universe isn't listening. So they panic, they start forcing again, they revert back to desperate energy, and they sabotage everything right before the breakthrough. But here's the revelation most people never get. That gap isn't a delay, it's alignment. Think of reality as an incredibly complex web of circumstances, people, events, and possibilities all interconnected in ways you can't see. When you shift your internal state, when you move from one frequency to another, that entire web has to recalibrate. It has to restructure itself to match where you now stand. This doesn't happen instantly in the physical realm because there are 1,000 invisible mechanisms working behind the scenes, rearranging pathways, orchestrating synchronicities, moving pieces into place that you have no awareness of. The silence is actually where the deepest magic happens. This is reality responding to your new frequency, reshaping itself around you, but it's doing it in dimensions you can't observe yet. It's working beneath the surface, in the invisible realm where all manifestation originates before it crystallizes into physical form. When you understand this, the silence stops being terrifying and becomes exciting. You're not waiting anymore. You're witnessing the unseen orchestration of your new reality taking shape. This brings us to what I call living in the in-between, the hidden state between realities where true mastery exists. This is where you live, as if you already have what you desire, but without the desperate need for proof. You go about your life, you make decisions, You carry yourself from the energy of already having it, not pretending, not acting, actually being that version of yourself. But here's the paradox that makes this state so powerful. You're doing this while waiting for nothing. You're not checking the mailbox of reality every 5 minutes to see if your manifestation has arrived. You're simply existing in the knowing, and that knowing permeates everything you do. This is a dimension most people never discover because it requires holding two seemingly contradictory states simultaneously: desire and detachment. You still want what you want. The desire doesn't disappear, but you're completely detached from needing it to validate you, to prove anything, to arrive on your timeline. When you can hold this paradoxical state without collapsing into either extreme, manifestation stops being something you hope for and becomes something inevitable. The impact of this shift in consciousness creates a transformation in how reality flows toward you that most people will spend their entire lives never experiencing. But there's something even more profound happening in this space. Something about how you actually embody this state in your daily life. Comment below, "I trust the invisible work." So, what happens when you actually master this space between realities? What does it look like when you've truly learned to hold this state without breaking? This is where everything transforms into something almost magical. Things don't just manifest, they flow to you. And I mean effortlessly. Not through force, not through struggle, not through exhausting yourself trying to make things happen. They arrive in ways that often surprise you, in forms better than you originally imagined, through pathways you never could have orchestrated yourself. This happens because you've finally removed all the resistance. Think of yourself as a channel, a conduit through which reality flows. When you're constantly doubting, checking, desperately seeking proof, you're creating blockages in that channel. You're restricting the flow with your anxious energy, with your need to control how and when things arrive. But when you've stepped fully into the knowing, when you're existing in that hidden state between wanting and having, you become completely clear. There's nothing blocking the pathway anymore. And reality, which has been trying to deliver to you all along, finally has an open channel to work through. This is the breakthrough most people spend their entire lives searching for without ever finding it. They're looking for complex techniques, secret formulas, hidden methods, when the real revelation is actually about subtraction, not addition. It's about removing the interference, the resistance, the desperate energy that's been blocking everything. Once that interference is gone, manifestation stops being something you struggle toward and becomes something that naturally flows to you as a consequence of who you've become. And this brings us to the most important understanding of all, the one that ties everything together. Manifestation isn't about doing more. It's never been about doing more. It's about being more, more certain in your knowing, more aligned with the reality you want to experience, more established in the internal state of already having what you desire. This shift in being is what creates the shift in circumstances, not the other way around. From this moment forward, whenever doubt creeps in, and it will, because that's part of being human, whenever impatience starts pulling at you, demanding to know when and how, your response is simple: do nothing. Not from resignation or defeat, but from deep, unshakable knowing. You've crossed into the hidden state where everything you desire already exists. You've made the internal journey from wanting to having. You've stepped out of one reality and into another. Now, all that's left is for the physical world to catch up to where you already are, and that catching up happens on its own timeline through its own mysterious evolution. But there's one final piece to this puzzle, one last aspect of living in this state that determines whether you stay here or slip back into old patterns. Put in the comments, "I am already there." So, now you understand. You've discovered the hidden state between realities, the space where manifestation actually occurs. You've learned that it's not about chasing, not about forcing, not about desperately waiting for proof. It's about stepping into a version of yourself that already has what you desire and living from that place, holding the paradox of desire and detachment simultaneously, trusting the invisible work happening beneath the surface while reality recalibrates itself around your new frequency. If you made it all the way here, you're clearly someone who's ready for this shift. You're not looking for surface-level answers or quick fixes. You're searching for something deeper, something real, something that actually transforms how you experience reality. And that's exactly what this channel is about: cutting through the noise and revealing the hidden mechanisms that most people never discover. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button because there's so much more to explore together. We're going deep into territories most channels won't touch, uncovering truths about consciousness, reality, and manifestation that change everything once you see them. And make sure you hit the like button. It helps this message reach others who are ready for it. People just like you who are searching for real answers in a world full of superficial content. Leave a comment and let me know. This was meant for me. I read every single one, and it's powerful to see who's walking this path alongside us from all corners of the world. And listen, there's another video right here that goes even deeper into this. It's about what happens when you actually start living from this new state and how reality begins responding in ways that seem almost impossible. Click it and continue this journey with me. Let's keep going.